My name is Rocco Fior Pinocchio, also known as RFP. So that answers the question if anyone was wondering what my stage name meant. It's just my initials, but it had a nice ring to it, so I went with it. I'm making this video because this is the end of an era for me. In the last 3 years, I've written, recorded, mixed, and released 8 albums, all back to back, all by myself, with each of them having a 4-month gap in between them. But the fashion that I have been making the albums with, I will not use anymore. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I turned to music, how I made these albums, what I plan to do with them, and the music that I have prepared for the future. So let's get into it. I was very inspired by Chicago-based punk rock from the 90s and some of the 80s. Really quickly, I'm going to name 20 Chicago punk bands that I really like. Sidekick Kato, Apocalypse Hoboken, The Blue Meanies, Oblivion, No Empathy, The Traitors, a little bit of Cavern Jazz, a little bit of Slapstick, a little bit of Screeching Weasel, a little bit of Alkaline Trio, The Vindictives, The Smoking Popes, Naked Raygun, Shellac, Leonard's Innards, Not Rebecca, The Boll Weevils, 88 Fingers Louie, Sludgeworth, and Gage. All the albums that I showed on screen are the best that those bands have to offer, in my opinion. The list goes on and on and on. And of course the Smashing Pumpkins, but they're not a punk band, but they are from here. I'm autistic and I have separated parents, so I felt like music was the perfect outlet for me, and I was good at it. I started drums when I was 5, but I didn't take it seriously until I was like 8. And then I got really good in middle school. And then I started playing guitar when I was 12, and then bass and piano later when I was 13, I think. So music has always been there. And just about every male relative that I have that is older than me, that is younger than any of my great-grandparents, are all musicians. Both of my grandfathers did music-related stuff, and my dad and all of my uncles from both sides did music at some point in their life as well. I released some tapes in middle school, but they never really went anywhere. It sounded like they brought my ideas to their fullest potential. I started writing songs when I was 12, and I had this like big batch of songs that I kind of like picked and chose from whenever I felt like creating a solid body of work just for me to listen to, and then I would like share it with my friends. And I love punk rock over every genre. I love all types of music, but I feel like the state of mind of punk, like actual punk, applies to me the most. I have a big hatred for society and I hate talking to people. I'm a very introverted person. I only talk to like a few people. Anyways, those demo tapes kind of were cool, but it would be like drums and guitar and then my voice, or me and an acoustic guitar. At best, it would be guitar, drums, and bass, and then 2 vocal tracks. But I always wanted something more out of it. So one day, I was like, I want to do a 2-guitar, like an imaginary 2-guitar lineup. Like I was always an imaginary duo or trio, but I decided in my freshman year that if I wanted to make music, because me and an acoustic guitar wasn't really going anywhere. So I decided from then on that I would be like an imaginary quartet. That's when the album You Suck came to be. The imaginary lineup was bass and lead vocals, rhythm and lead guitarists, where both of them sing backing vocals, and then a drummer. And I felt like I was set. That's like the Beatles at that point. And the album You Suck was like updated versions of that batch of older songs that I had. I picked 15 songs and I was like, this sounds like a good body of work, I'm gonna use it. Then after that was done, I recorded Nobody's Happy immediately after, because I still had a bunch of songs that I could have used. You Suck is a very angry album, and Nobody's Happy is kind of more like an emotional roller coaster. They're both very pessimistic albums, but in kind of opposite ways. But they are very lyrically and musically black and white, just like straightforward, negative punk rock songs. Most of the subject material consisted of school, family, the outside world, teachers, bullies, fake friends, embarrassment, and just like confusion in general. They were very sort of angsty, like youthful things to write about. I was 15 when I recorded both of those albums. Then when Are You Finished came along, I feel like some stuff changed a little bit. It was also still from that batch of older songs, but in a more colorful way. The songs were more melodic, and Nobody's Happy was actually a lot more melodic than You Suck, and I started having all these cool bass lines and harmonies, and instead of just like straightforward root notes and power chords. But they were both on the same level of pessimism, I think. Are You Finished? Showcased my versatility and like everything that I could do at that time. And there's a lot of pretty songs on there, honestly. That was like the first album I ever did where there were songs on it where there was no guitar distortion. Then when Relentlessly came, I applied the same thing for Are You Finished, and I did it even more. And I also started to have more fun with the lyrics on that album as well. Like, there were angry songs and there were prettier songs, but there were also like less serious songs, or like stuff that I was like really feeling strongly about and that I had to sing about. And it was still from that batch of older songs that I had. Like, those 4 albums were all kind of built on melodies and ideas that I had already had at most 4 years ago up to that point. I was 16 when I did Are You Finished and Relentlessly. I also didn't expect to keep making album after album. I thought I would just do like a couple and then stop, or I would do one and then stop, but ideas just kept coming and I had the time to do it, so I just wrote it and got it done, and now it's here. Also, all of my albums up to that point, like all 8 albums that I'm talking about in this video, all have 15 songs, and there's a reason for that. I like when things end in a 0 or a 5, like Money. So I just felt like 15 was a satisfactory number because I wasn't writing songs that were like super long. So it filled the space for like an imaginary vinyl record, because a vinyl, I think, can hold up to 22 minutes of music per side before the quality drops. Relentlessly, the longest album I ever did, at just under 44 minutes, where it's 43 minutes, has 2 halves that are like a little under 22 minutes, and I did that on purpose. But I think that track list number fit for the song duration average that I had at the time. And then after I did Relentlessly, I thought I was going to take like a year-long break, and rest assured I was wrong, because 4 is a very nice even number. I love the number 4. So I thought that like 4 albums was all I needed. Eventually I got into more progressive music, so I came up with the idea to start making concept albums, or albums that either carried a similar theme or told a story, which is what a concept album is. And then I immediately thought of 4 ideas that I stuck with, and thusly 4 totally brand new albums that had nothing to do with the old batch of melodies or ideas started coming to life. Also, for all you Zodiac nerds, a coincidence that I have with my albums is that they're all released during an Earth season. They're all released in either Virgo, Capricorn, or Taurus season. My birthday is September 12th. I'm a Virgo. I'm actually a triple Virgo. It's my sun, moon, and rising. I don't like to get into that shit though. I don't really think it means anything. But it's just like a nice little thing of symmetry that I decided to make a theme. So those first 4 albums that I just talked about were kind of like the classic period. And these 4 concept albums that I'm about to talk about, I like to consider the experimental period, because I think as far as like me being a punk artist, I really pushed myself to do things musically that I don't think I would have done years ago. Because the concept albums have too much detail to really go into them for this video that I'm making, really quickly I'm going to give a summary for each of the concept albums. Far Away is about long distance relationships and how much of a drag they are, and was based off of the first like real relationship that I was ever in. Just Relax is about the most embarrassing / unbearable time of my life when I was in middle school, and features a lot of themes of anger and stress. Prick is an imaginary story about this fictional person that I came up with that is like everything that I hate about an everyday person combined into one shitty person. He does a lot of bad shit in the album, and then near the end of the album everybody turns on him. And then It's All Happening, which is by far the most important one, is about me coming of age or growing up and really leaving my like younger life behind me. A lot of the things about these albums are very different than the things that made my first 4 albums what they are. All the songs on the concept albums have this thing where they kind of like transition into each other. And I did that a little bit on my first 4 albums, but that was only for like sections of songs. For these albums, I try to make like one solid body of work, or 2 solid bodies of work, because there's two halves, and I'm always thinking about it as if it were like a vinyl record where you have to flip the side and everything. For Just Relax and Prick, the imaginary lineup changed completely. Instead of a 2-guitar band, it was guitar, drums, bass, and glockenspiel. Then I was gifted a megaphone, and I was like, how can I use this in a way that would make my songs more interesting? So because I was doing concept albums, I was like, I'm gonna make it so that every character that isn't the main character has like different voices going on. For Just Relax, that was told through my perspective, so I made every character that wasn't me have distorted vocals. And for Prick, I did the opposite. Because the main character was this imaginary douchebag, I made him the only one with distorted vocals, and everybody around him has clean vocals. And because you need one hand to hold a megaphone and then sing into it, like into the microphone, because I didn't want to do like any vocal effects or like post-processing. Everything that I do is under the impression of, can I recreate it live? So one hand to hold the megaphone in place. And the reason I went with glockenspiel is because it's an instrument that you can play with only one hand. You don't need to play it with 2 sticks all the time. You can just do like these 1-note melodies with the bars, and then you'll be fine. And as an addition, I included the shaker as well. So there are times throughout both of those albums where I can do the shaker and sing into the megaphone at the same time. I can play glockenspiel and sing into the megaphone at the same time, or I can play single note things on the glockenspiel and do the shaker at the same time. Or I can do each of them on their own, or do nothing at all and just sing. So all those little combinations, I think, are what made those albums so unique. As for the guitar and bass, because there was no second guitar, I included the option of having bass distortion to fill in the empty sound when something needed to be louder. On the album Prick, I introduced the cowbell for the drums as well. And I know that I said I played keyboard earlier in this video, but I never used keyboards on my albums previously because I thought they were too artificial and I didn't know how to manipulate them well. That's why I used the glockenspiel, because it was still laid out like a piano where you have the regulars and then you have the flats and sharps up here. Even though I probably could have gotten more done with 5 fingers than just 1 stick. But hey, it's what makes those albums unique. And rest assured, I will use keyboards in the future, but that's for another time. I will continue to use this thing because it makes for the best tripod in the world that isn't an actual tripod. You can adjust it at any height you want. Just put it up against like a water bottle or something, and it works. And I can spin it wherever I please. Legendary. As for the albums Far Away and It's All Happening, the 2-guitar lineup remained the same. Far Away was interesting because it was the first album that I did where it was purely melodic, like there was no screaming on it or shouting, like a lot of the songs from my first 4 albums. And I was harmonizing more, and I really tried to sing like high. There was also no profanity on it. It was purely musical. I was trying to make a really beautiful album at the time. And that's probably the least punk album that I ever made. I mean, I guess you could say it's punk because it came from the heart, and like I'm being real about it, but it wasn't as angry or antisocial as some of the other albums. I also started really taking my solos seriously. Like there's some really good guitar soloing going on in there, and I did a lot more bending and I put more reverb on the amp. Like before, my solos mostly consisted of octaves over everything, like those fuzzed out octaves. But in Far Away, I took my melodies and chord progressions a lot more seriously. That's really when my chord craziness shined, and it continued to get like even more ridiculous. On Prick, it was insane. The chord progressions on that album are ridiculous. So are the time signatures. Actually, yeah, a lot of the music on Just Relax and Prick started to get more like brutally progressive. But with Far Away, I was just trying to make something that was still beautiful at the same time. Like stuff that was complex, but not necessarily too dissonant. On It's All Happening, I went all out. It was beautiful. It was dissonant. It was complex. It had these solos and these bass lines and these drum parts. I did absolutely everything I could on that. And that also has the 2-guitar lineup that I was talking about. For the lead guitar, I included the EBow and the whammy bar. I don't think I'll ever use the whammy bar again, but I definitely will use the EBow again because it creates infinite sustain. And for the drums, I also included chimes so that I could do more ambient or dreamlike, I guess psychedelic-y stuff, like for songs that didn't need a lot of percussion but still needed something to like fill in the empty space. That album is all over the place. And because that album is so important, especially considering all the albums that came before it and how I finally got to that point, not only did I release it on my 18th birthday on purpose, which was September 12th, 2025, I was born in 2007, but I also made a movie for it, which was a long music video for the whole album, where it cut back and forth to me like playing all the different instruments and singing everything. I was originally gonna make a music video for the last song on the album called What's Next, which is my best song of all of those songs, and there's 120 of them. That's my best one. And that song was like this big epic that came at the very end of the album, but I was like, no, I want to do the whole thing. Typically the closers for my albums are like the best parts, and I was gifted these posters by my aunt and my uncle, and they were so amazing that I decided to put them up for the video. I still have all of them right here. Here you can actually see them in color. Here's You Suck, Nobody's Happy, Are You Finished, Relentlessly, Far Away, Just Relax, Prick, It's All Happening. At the bottom of every poster, it says the year and the track listing. Really quickly, I wanted to address the album covers. All of them were taken by me of just places or things that I saw that I thought made for a good picture, and they're all nature or like landscapes or something in the real world, which was kind of the point of the music, like getting away from everyone and everything and just being submerged in the music. And it's just a very divine experience. I love nature and the outdoors and just like being outside, and I will lyrically elaborate on that more in the future. My auntie and uncle did an amazing job on these. I took them down because it felt a little too self-absorbed, even though a bunch of rock stars, like when you go into their house, it's filled with posters and awards that they've won of themselves. But I don't really want to be a rock star, I'm not gonna lie, but I definitely will use them again because they're just so pretty. I also just didn't want to surround myself with my older energy all the time because that's where I record my music, so I didn't want to pollute the air. In the video, I'm wearing a suit and tie on every single character. There's even some little like interactive bits, like the part where the two guitarists play rock, paper, scissors, the parts where the drummer and the bassist like keep messing with each other, the part at the end where the two guitarists dance, and then the part at the very end where they all wave after the last chord. Also, as a little Easter egg, there's two hi-hat pedal hits on the very last part of the very last song of the album. And the reasoning for that is because on the first song of You Suck, there's a hi-hat pedal before the song begins. So if you want, try playing those two songs back to back. There are plenty of motifs and like fourth wall breakings throughout a bunch of the songs throughout the whole catalog that I did. That music video and the hand wave really solidified the ending of that whole era for me. This is the last post-video note that I wanted to include here. For the thumbnail for the video/movie, all the characters have their eyes closed in different ways. And they're all like that to represent the progression of the albums. The first person has both of their eyes closed to represent the black and white pessimism of the first two. The second person has both of their eyes open to represent the introduction of more colorful songwriting with the third and fourth albums. The third person has their left eye winking to represent the melodicness of Far Away, and then the dissonance of Just Relax. And the same thing with the fourth person, but backwards, because Prick was dissonant and It's All Happening was melodic. Also in the video, I displayed the glockenspiel combination that I mentioned earlier to pay tribute to the setup that I used for the two albums that came before it. That was the end of my, like, underage songwriting, I guess. Because the album was released when I became an adult, but it was recorded and written while I was still a child. I am 18 now, as of recording this video. This is the start of a new era for me, and that's pretty much all I have to say about all of those albums. For this video, I was just trying to give a little brief, like, this is kind of like a mini documentary, I guess, where it's not necessarily like a full memoir, but still talks enough about the first 8 albums that I made. because I put a lot into them and I can't just not talk about them. Like, why would I do that? I said at the beginning of the video I was going to talk about what I wanted to do with these albums in the future, so I'm going to talk about it right now. I'm taking them off of streaming services, and there's two main reasons for that. Number one, I think the songs are pretty outdated as of right now. Like, I don't think these are songs that I want to sing, like, and perform for the rest of my life. They're from such an older state of mind that I had, and I feel like I can do more musical stuff. So that's number one. Number two, and this is the biggest reason, the production is not good. I'm dead serious, and the reasoning for that is because I recorded all of these albums on my cell phone because I didn't have any good recording equipment. An old way that I used to record songs was, like, I hit record on the camera app, and then I set it up next to the drums or an amp or my voice or whatever, and I would take all those clips, and then I would take the audios from all of it, and then I would put them into iMovie, and then I would sync them up, which is a terrible way of producing songs. Don't ever do that. It's super time consuming and you can't monitor anything. It's such a shit show. But that was all I had. From here on out, I'm using an actual recording software and a real microphone. So I'm taking these albums away from streaming as sort of a way to, like, rebrand myself, but they will still be up for free on YouTube and Bandcamp. And on Bandcamp, all the lyrics are listed for the songs. I'll put the YouTube and Bandcamp links down below. Now I just gotta record more music. So to end this on a high note, even though this wasn't like a sad video or anything, but you know what I mean. I love music. I love everything about it. I put it over everything. I'm extremely dedicated towards it. If this video didn't prove that, I don't know what does. And I will, for the rest of my life, continue to do everything in my power to get a little bit better at it every single day. Like, I want to be better than I was yesterday and worse than I will be tomorrow. I'm very happy that I found out, like, what my passion was at such a young age, and I'm extremely thankful for my family as well for letting me do all of this. Thank you guys for watching this. Huge shout out to all the smaller bands that I mentioned that have inspired me along the way. Stay tuned for future releases and have a good day.